Hi, my name is Sangita Kumar, and I'm the CEO and founder of Be the Change Consulting. Join me in Liberated AF, the workplace revolution. This is a podcast where we get to explore what does it take to become the organization that we want to work for. So what is that? The organization I want to work for, it supports my humanity and makes me feel like I belong. It's a place that isn't racist, it isn't extractive. It works for the boomers and the Gen Alphas. There's space for everyone to bring their genius to work. Don't we want to become that? And don't we want to create that? So I have been studying organizational dynamics for over 20 years, and I love working with teams stuck in an entrenched challenge to bring clarity to diverse perspectives and look for ways that human-centered systems. We're going to tell stories, we're going to answer questions, we're going to offer strategies on this podcast. Together, we are going to become something new. Let's go. Fong, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, Sangita. My mind is bubbling because I've been doing a lot of curriculum development for different youth leadership organization, and I want to pick your brain so much on so many things around facilitation today.
Okay, let's do it. So just for our listeners out there, when you say you're working with groups to do curriculum development, is that what you said? What does that mean?
Yeah, there's some brilliant people in the world. We are super talented. And so I have had the opportunity to work with different organizations where they're taking a step back and they're taking a look at the work they've done maybe in the past 5 or 10 years. They're like, we got something here. So why are we reinventing things? Let's solidify and put into a curriculum. And so poof, that's when we get to come in, be the change. And that process is so sweet because I get to sit and listen. I do feedback sessions and I listen to young people, community members, and ask them what's their experience with the curriculum, what impact, what would they change? And so it's truly people-centered. And then
cool. Yeah. So by curriculum, you mean you're working with organizations that have over the years developed some approach to their delivery. Maybe it's a set of workshops, it's experiences that they're offering, either young people, right? Is it mostly young people you're thinking about? Okay. And so this is the process. Writing their curriculum is helping them to reflect on the lessons learned, think about what they've offered, and then build it into like a structured set of lesson plans.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would say the core things of that is, well, one is alignment, right? Because when you're in an organization where you've had 5, 10, 20 years worth of work, there's all these beautiful storytellers telling the stories. The essence is the same. The value is there. And the story changes, which is part of the beauty. And so in order to evolve and to pass that knowledge to the next generation, you want to have some sort of blueprint. And so that's where that curriculum comes in. And so, the content is amazing. I feel like I'm learning all the time, right? From youth leadership to harm reduction to community engagement. The content is so rich. Like I said, people are amazing in. And so where I pair the content that they have for me to look at is like our facilitative process, right? Mm-hmm. About designing the presentation materials, the facilitation scripts. And the main thing I think about is like, how much safety does a facilitator need to hold space and feel brilliant? A lot of things. It's a lot of things.
Yeah, and it's even the question, it's a very compassionate question because you're thinking about what does the instructor, the person delivering the material need. And I think a lot of people would be thinking about what do the participants need, the audience members. So what makes you focus on the needs of the facilitator?
Being a facilitator yourself, this is that regardless, whether we're meeting the group for the first time or we're meeting them 100 times, we hold positional power. Mm-hmm. When we stand up there, right? We have a responsibility. There's an expectation. And so that's hella scary. And so when we're not grounded and we don't have process tools, we don't have inclusive designs, people come in and get you, right? Yeah. And so So then I think that when we start off with thinking about the person who is, I don't know which metaphor I'm using here. It's not conductor. Conductor's not the right one. So I'm sure you're going to help me with the metaphor. But when you send in someone who is going to facilitate and hold the magic, you want to give them the right magical wands to inspire people to bring in their glitters, their gifts, and their genius. And when that facilitator doesn't have all these diverse wands and they just come in with their their own thinking, they're going to push their own agenda, and it's going to feel very different.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was thinking when you were saying this about how, in big universities or people who give speeches on a stage, there's often a podium, and it's designed. It's almost like someone's armor, right? To get behind it, and there's something that's a partition between you and the audience, and your body is protected, and right, it covers you all the way up to your chest, and it's now I'm a talking head. And then if we think about TED Talks or big presentations like that, it's often one directional, someone on stage speaking with a bunch of slides, and you're saying, a wand, maybe the modern day wand is PowerPoint clicker, the thing that advances your slides. And so if you don't feel safe, I imagine I liked how you said, then some part of us, the presenters, are thinking am I okay? Am I okay? Which lets you focus on the group. And then, it might make you want to protect yourself. So, of course, safety is important.
Okay, I'm so juiced about this. And you said something about the podium that I want you to share a little bit more. There's this earlier on when I started facilitating with you, you talked about how we are one of the only animals that walk the planet where with full standing with all of our vital organs. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I heard it actually. I learned it from someone else, but this idea that human beings are the only warm-blooded mammals. So if you think about a horse, a cow, a sheep, a pig, they all walk around on all fours. And human beings are the only ones that stand upright. And when we gained that, right, from our evolutionary standpoint, we gained the ability to stand upright. It allowed us for our brains to develop. We can make all these complex tools like an iPhone, this giant computer that can fit into your pocket. But what we traded was our sense of safety. So we walk around with all our vital organs totally exposed. So someone can come up to me on the street and just with a fist punch me right in my heart or in my kidneys. And that, you can't do that to a horse. The horse is gonna see that coming if someone's trying to take it, and it's So some part of us is always anxious because we know that we're exposed.
So the same thinking there as a facilitator, the podium is one of our shields.
Yeah.
University professors, we stand behind the podium. It gives us more power. We can stand up a little straighter because we know those vital parts are being covered. I also think that as a facilitator, there's other ways in which we create shields. Like you said, the PowerPoint clicker. Let me keep on going really fast with my PowerPoint clicker. And so when I'm working to develop these curriculum designs, I think about the facilitator, and I think about it. So it's fascinating. You've probably seen this too. When I'm working with young facilitators, they're like, let's curate an agenda. I'm like, great, I love a good agenda. And they're like, how many minutes do we want it to this thing? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes. We need a timekeeper. I'm like, okay, efficient. I love it. And then what happens is it's like the podium. It's like their shield. So as folks are engaging in conversation and flow, the timekeeper, they're like 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds left. And so then I'm thinking what are we staying in tune to? The flow of conversation or to the time, but why are we so much on to the time? Do you see that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And if we're narrating out loud how much time is left, then the other question we could ask is, what are we asking the participants to pay attention to? Are they listening to what somebody said before and thinking about how they want to respond, or are they we have a minute before the next section starts? And right. So it's also if we think about the words that get said in a in a workshop or a session are like the real estate. And we're taking up some of our real estate, our precious like real estate of time, with having people pay attention to how long are they talking, who's talking a lot, when is the time to wrap up? Okay, figure out the transition, let's go. It does something, at least in my mind. It bento boxes the whole experience instead of it feeling like one fluid thing that's happening.
Yeah, and I mean, and we see this, in big spaces, right? Big facilitative spaces. And I would even say as a supervisor or a leader in team meetings. I have a team of 10 teachers, and we meet every Wednesday, and I pack that agenda tight. It's 1 hour and we got 8 items, so how much safety? Okay, let's just talk about first, we're talking about facilitators here, right? Why do you think that facilitator is packing that agenda so tight?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think one is, when I think about like meeting times in schools, right? Like you've got like a lot of people, you have like 8 to 10 people coming to meet for a short amount of time, you might be packing that agenda really tight. One, because you are thinking about all the people. Maybe there's a lot of topics that are important to, each person has something that's important to them. So maybe that's one. Maybe they're like, people don't read emails, so I have to tell you everything that you need to know in this 1 hour meeting because I'm trying to keep you informed. And then I think legitimately, like if you create a lot of space for conversation, maybe someone will complain about something. Maybe it'll go south. Maybe like emotions will rise. Maybe conflict will show up. Or maybe you'll be put on the spot where someone's asking you a question and you feel like you have to have an answer, but you don't know the answer, and then you don't know what to say. So like, I think a third reason might be just to cut down the back and forth. And you can always use the sense of like, we don't have enough time, that sense of urgency to shut down conversation.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think about that. I mean, I used to do that when I was a young supervisor, a young manager. I did all those things because I was afraid that my staff was going to bring in something that I did not know how to address. And I didn't want to lose face. So by doing that, though, I do hold, I hold the agenda, I hold the flow, I hold the power. What I get from that is I get efficiency and I can check things off my list. But those are my gains, but I'm missing a few things. When you think about your own facilitation, what has happened for you as you've liberated yourself from that process of staying tight to agenda? Wait a minute, let me not assume. Did you ever do that? Maybe you've never done that.
No, I've definitely done that. I used to have, like you said, like in a 3-hour workshop, I would have like 8 hours of content. And I had no idea actually that I had 8 hours of content. Like so something is also true that like, I think as the person leading things, I was so afraid of space, of like extra space, that I wanted everything to be crammed like super tight. And maybe I thought, I'm going to create value, right? Where people are going to get a lot done in this session. But yeah, I think I've learned, over years, I learned to like look through my agenda, my overly filled agenda, and then just know this is the thing that I'll cut if I run out of time. And invariably I had to cut that thing because there was so many hours of extra content. And then I'm like, okay, here's 3 things that so over time I kind of started to force myself to have a better sense of reality of what bits. And I think as I've gotten more confident in holding space for things that I don't know that I can control or couldn't have predicted, it has made it easier for me to, to see the like, here's a conversation that might take 15 minutes, but let's give it 25 or 30. It's definitely connected to my sense of confidence that I won't die and the group won't die and we won't create a giant war if we had 20 extra minutes to process together.
I love that. That is actually one of the main questions that the young youth facilitators ask me, as they ask me, what happens when they ask you a question that you don't know? Or what if someone goes off the agenda? They're like, what do you do? What do you do? You know, based on these curriculums, and we're creating these different facilitation agendas and presentation. And so then I take them through a process where I ask them, how does that make you feel? They're like scared. They're like, I feel like I don't know enough. A level of shame, embarrassment, you know, not feeling like, I guess, a level of imposter syndrome. And so what I tell them, which I think it has really worked for me, and I coach them, is I talk about, you know, you are here as a process facilitator. The information that you're delivering here is some, it's not all the information. And every single person in here has some bit of knowledge to add to this content here that is going to make it bloom and flourish, right? So one way that you can create that level of safety and comfort for you as a facilitator is by naming that. I'm going to facilitate a conversation around this particular topic. I have some information and I would love to hear what are some other ways in which, or what other information that you already know, or what are some other questions you already, or what are some questions you're curious about? And then you can curate it. I think that particular process also supports groups to co-create an agenda too. So,
yeah. Do you think people have a metaphor? Like, as you were saying that, I was like, oh yeah, that sounds really cool. And then I was like, when I think back to like that example we were saying of like a professor at a podium, like when I think about people who are holding space, my first metaphor is a content expert, not a person who's holding process. Think of like who, do you have an example of someone who is a process facilitator? Like what metaphor comes to your mind or example?
I see what you're saying there. And okay, so with that, I think then, so hold on, pause to that. I want to say this and then we can figure that out together. I do think that some of this curriculum that I'm talking about that's curating, I have to say that you do hold content expertise in that particular content that you're delivering. And then you go into process facilitator mode. Like, I think there are times where you can hold both, right? Both and. So a metaphor for a process facilitator, let me see.
Maybe this is too abstract. Maybe we don't even need that.
No, I think of this. Well, I think whenever I see like a coach, you know, when I see a coach like this, I feel like they are process facilitator before they go into content. So for example, first day of camp, there's these 7 or 5 drills. I'm going to have you all go through it. I'm going to show you each how to do it one time. And then they step back and they watch everyone do the drills. And then they're trying to figure out, okay, what's the different level of experiences, right? And then they ask questions. What was challenging? What felt fun? What felt good? What do you need to get better? That part right there, that's process facilitation before they go into the content of teaching soccer skills. Versus there's a totally different way of coaching where you go into the content first and then you go into the other one. So I don't know, maybe that doesn't make sense at all.
I think there are some youth development coaches that are doing it like that. And I think there's a lot of people who, like, when they think athletic coaching, you know, coaches aren't like, how do you feel? I'm glad that you think that that's your vision.
No, but that's the same thing in schools, right? So it's not just like a field of coaching or thinking about athletics. That's the same thing with school too. When you think about a math teacher going in and teaching math, like high school math teachers, right? Like, I feel like, what do they do to keep themselves safe when they're facilitating and teaching that content? So
I have 2 examples from my life of like how did I learn what a process facilitator was compared to a content expert. One is, I think you said did you say conductor? Like a conductor?
Yeah, I said I wasn't sure. So I was like, you should, I'm not too sure about a conductor.
The conductor feels like one that's close because they're keeping time. They're holding the whole group, but they may not be the person who can play the saxophone, the tuba, the oboe, they might not know how to play every single one of those instruments. So their function isn't to be the technical skill builder and like how to like get the best and clearest sound out of those notes or how to tune the instruments. They're attuning to the whole and they're keeping the whole moving in a coordinated way while each instrument is kind of like doing its part in the space. So that could be like one example, right? I'm a process facilitator. I think a second example, it's not exactly an example, but like I remember teaching in a school and I realized that the principal was not, she didn't have all the skills that I wanted her to have. And I was like, why is that? She was a great teacher. She was a phenomenal teacher who got promoted into being a principal. And as I saw her holding space in our, for our teaching staff, these brilliant teachers, she couldn't hold the group. She knew how to do her lane. She knew how to be a teacher. So if we take that orchestra example, it was like she was the oboe player that was now responsible for like holding the orchestra. And I don't like the skills that she gained to make her a great teacher did not give her the skills that she needed to hold our whole group of instructors. Like we didn't need her to tell us what to do or what to think. We needed her to hold to like help arbitrate our dialogue, to help us like say, oh, I hear what you're saying here and I see what this person is saying. Let's hold these two ideas up next to each other. Okay, let's figure out how we're going to like make a resolution, like to help our group of badasses who knew how to do our individual jobs really well. We needed something else to make ourselves like, we were great classroom teachers, but we were not a great school. Like the culture of our school was not amazing because the teachers did not know how to work together. We were at each other's throats all the time. And it was, I think what we needed the principal to do was not know how to teach math, but to bring our collective teachers together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Wow.
So, okay, if we go back, I don't know if we can use that because it has felt kind of...
I think what we need to, I'm trying to think of the last thing what we have said, because I think we can cut some stuff out, put that thing in, and I'm trying to remember what you had said, so then we can loop it back to how much safety do you need, and we can offer the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. So maybe I can ask you, so Fong, okay, as you're developing these instructional materials, your curriculum for emerging facilitators, right? And you know that they need things to keep them safe. What do you offer to them?
Mm-hmm. The first thing I offer them is for them to do some self-reflection, self-awareness, right? Really grounding themselves and naming the things, what is exciting about what you're about to do, what's exciting about facilitation, what scares you about facilitation, and why. And so to reflect on it and say that out loud. Say it out loud so it's out in the universe. And so then the next thing I do is then based on the things that you are afraid of, or it could be your challenges, we started thinking about what could potentially happen, right? If we were going to play this out and you're standing in front of everyone, this is going to happen. What could potentially happen? I really want them to play that movie out in their head. Mm-hmm. Now they have more control. Mm-hmm. And then third step, what I would do is then I offer them process tools. I offer them different types of facilitative approaches, different designs, different types of activities, so then they can support that what in their head might feel chaotic because it's the unknown. And so you've already named the unknown, you know what's going to happen. So now you have 1 or 2 tools where then you can use it to facilitate the unknown for you, but probably for everybody else to make it less scary. So those would be the 3 things that I would offer for the young facilitators, but for any facilitators, I mean, I do it for myself, right? I think about what's scary about this topic or this group. I do my self-reflection. I, hold my self-awareness. Then I play out all the things that can go wrong based off of those fears or what I know, what I don't know. And then I go in with the tools that is going to create space for all those places where I'm really afraid of. Then now I'm speaking out that then people can flow into those process and activities. So I guess then I would, embrace my conductor self, even though I was only in orchestra for 6 weeks in middle school. And I think I was like violin chair 12, and there was 12 of us. So,
and in this example, what does embracing your conductor self? What does that mean you do?
I think, like you said, with the conductor, is that to know that you don't know how to play every single instrument, and that's okay. But
that's not your job, actually.
That's not my job. But what I do know, and what I could do really well, is to create that expansiveness, and then to be able to acknowledge the group that's bringing in. Now, I'm not going to spit out things that I don't know make sense, but they're vibrato with something else, right? I'm going to be riding through that process. That I'm going to be confident in, and I won't have to feel like I need to feel the shoes of the oboes or the flutes or the cellos. So
your job is to help everyone make beautiful music. Yeah, that's great. I love that. Well, Fong, it's good to reflect on, we all need safety. Yeah. Regardless of what role we hold, our sense of belonging and inclusion depends on, me feeling safe, but then also knowing we can get into more discomfort together, and that we will arrive at a place where we're making beautiful music. Great tips. Thank you for sharing so much of your wisdom with us.
Oh, thanks. And I do think this is a part of liberation that is that we don't see, right? It's like we're seeing both sides, the yin and the yang. It's hard for everybody. And yes, the people who are in power, the people who hold positionality, we have to do our work. And there's a way in which we can do our work and then bring folks in too. So thank you so much. We hope this conversation provided helpful insight and inspired you to create a more inclusive and liberated workplace. If you enjoyed today's discussion, please subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast with your friends and colleagues. Your support makes a huge difference in helping us reach more listeners like you. We love to hear your thoughts on today's topic. Connect with us on social media and drop a comment. You can find all the links in the show notes. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.